Imagine driving across Europe today from Paris to Prague, from Tallinn to Thessaloniki, without ever once being asked for your passport. No long lines, no border guards, no stamps, just wide-open roads and freedom of movement. It's easy to take that for granted, but rewind just a few decades and that same journey would have been nearly impossible. Interrupted by checkpoints, visa scrutiny, and in some places, barbed wire, watchtowers and landmines. This is the story of how Europe transformed its borders. From the unforgiving Iron Curtain to the borderless Schengen Area. A journey shaped by war, ideology, diplomacy, and a bold vision of unity. This isn't just about maps and policies, it's about people, trapped, freed, and finally able to move forward. After World War II, Europe was physically shattered, politically fractured, and emotionally scarred. And from the rubble rose two powers, the Western Allies, led by the United States, and the Soviet Union, expanding rapidly across Eastern Europe. What followed was a Cold War, not fought on battlefields, but at borders. In 1946, Winston Churchill famously declared, "An Iron Curtain has descended across the continent." That wasn't just a metaphor. By the 1950s, a real Iron Curtain was taking shape, a fortified strip stretching from the Baltic Sea down to the Balkans. It divided East and West, democracy and dictatorship, capitalism and communism. At its harshest, it meant concrete walls, electric fences, minefields, and shoot-to-kill orders. The most infamous piece? The Berlin Wall. Built overnight in 1961, it sliced the German capital in two and became the Cold War's most visible wound. But across the entire Eastern Bloc, from Poland to Bulgaria, similar walls, fences, and restrictions defined everyday life. For millions, the border wasn't just political, it was personal. It separated families, blocked futures, and turned the idea of freedom into a distant fantasy. But no wall lasts forever. By the 1980s, the pressure inside the Eastern Bloc was mounting. Economic stagnation, political repression, and rising unrest were chipping away at the system. In Poland, the Solidarity movement sparked hope. In Hungary, quiet reforms began taking root. And in Czechoslovakia and East Germany, citizens started to push back. Outside Western Europe watched and waited. And then everything changed. In 1989, the dominoes began to fall. Hungary cut a hole in the Iron Curtain, literally. Border fences between Hungary and Austria were dismantled. Thousands of East Germans used that route to flee west. Peaceful revolutions swept through the Eastern Bloc. And in November, the unthinkable happened. The Berlin Wall came down not with tanks or bombs, but with people, marching, singing, celebrating. Decades of division vanished almost overnight. The Iron Curtain was no more, but tearing down walls was only the beginning. The next question was just as big. How do you rebuild a continent once defined by borders? In a quiet village in Luxembourg, long before the wall fell, 5 countries had already signed a radical agreement. In 1985, France, Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands and Luxembourg launched the Schengen Agreement. Their goal? To eliminate internal border controls between their nations. A bold idea, especially during the Cold War, but they believed in a future where travel and trade didn't require visas, border posts or hours of paperwork. In 1995, the agreement took full effect. The Schengen Area was born. Gradually more countries joined, Austria, Italy, Spain, then the Nordic, and eventually former Eastern Bloc countries like Poland, Estonia and Slovakia. Today, 27 countries participate in the Schengen Area, covering most of the European Union and a few non-EU states like Norway and Switzerland. It's one of the world's most ambitious experiments in open borders. And for the most part, it's worked. So, what exactly does being part of the Schengen Area mean? First and foremost, freedom of movement. Citizens and travellers can cross internal borders without being stopped or checked. Drive from Lisbon to Warsaw, nobody asks for ID. Take a train from Munich to Prague, no passport control. Fly from Amsterdam to Rome, just walk off the plane. For people living near borders, this has been transformative. Daily commutes, cross-border families and business relationships that once faced constant bureaucracy now flow freely. But there's more. Schengen also establishes a shared visa system for non-EU travellers, sets up common rules on asylum and border security, and supports cross-border policing through systems like SIS, the Schengen Information System, which helps track crime, missing persons and security threats. To manage all this, Europe created Frontex, a border agency that supports countries on the edge of Schengen, like Greece, Italy and Spain. It's one of the largest-scale border cooperation efforts in human history. But let's be honest, open borders aren't without challenges. In 2015, Europe faced its biggest test. The Syrian civil war triggered a massive refugee crisis. Millions of people arrived, many crossing Schengen borders without authorization. The system bent, and in some cases broke. Temporary border controls were reinstated in places like Germany, Austria and Slovenia. Political tensions flared, nationalist parties gained ground, and questions about the future of Schengen took centre stage. Then came Brexit, not a Schengen issue directly, but another sign of Europe's growing unease with open integration. And in 2020, the COVID-19 pandemic changed everything. Borders across Europe slammed shut again, this time for public health. Flights were grounded, travel restricted, and checkpoints reappeared. But once again, Schengen endured, it adapted, and slowly the fences came down again. Today, Europe's borders are evolving again, this time not with walls, but with technology. Digital passports, biometric screening, and real-time surveillance are helping countries secure external borders without compromising internal openness. The ETIAS system, launching soon, will require visa-exempt travellers to register online before entering the Schengen Area, similar to the US ESTA program. It's part of a broader shift towards smart borders, more data, faster screening, fewer delays, but the principle remains the same. Keep borders open where possible, secure where necessary, and above all, respect the freedom that so many once fought to gain. So why does Europe's border evolution matter? Because it tells us something profound, that borders aren't just lines on a map, they're expressions of trust or fear. They reflect how we see our neighbours. They can divide or unite. From the terror of the Iron Curtain to the quiet beauty of a borderless highway in the Alps, Europe's journey has been one of transformation. Not just of geography, but of identity. The Schengen area isn't perfect, but it represents something rare, a continent choosing cooperation over conflict, openness over isolation, future over fear, so the next time you cross a European border and no one stops you, remember what it used to be like: barbed wire, concrete walls, families separated by force, dreams held back by politics. That's not ancient history, that's within living memory, and yet here we are, with a continent more connected than ever before. If this story moved you, taught you something, or made you see Europe differently, give this video a like, subscribe for more untold history, and hit that bell so you never miss a journey like this one, and let us know in the comments. Have you crossed a border in the Schengen area? What was your experience like? Or do you remember a time when European borders were anything but open? The evolution of Europe's borders is still being written, and your story is part of it.